Hello, today we're going to talk about the query module. We'll look at some capabilities of the query module and then get right into a demonstration. So what does the query module allow you to do? It allows you to query, report, and export data. Researchers can see their own data as well as data that may have been shared with them. Where does the data come from? It comes from studies that have been submitted to the data repository, and you can contribute, upload, and store research data to studies in the repository, as well as view details of submitted studies and then manage your own studies. Some capabilities of the query module. Like I said, you can query data that belongs to a specific study. You can query data that belongs to a specific form across multiple studies. You can filter data within forms by data element. You can join forms within and across studies. And this is a left outer join, which we will talk about a little later. It basically matches data from the primary form and the secondary and/or tertiary forms on a GUID. You can view your query results in a browser, or you can download your query results as a CSV file. So let's get right into the demonstration. When you log in, you can click to get to the query tool by clicking on the icon, or from the navigation in the top bar here. When you land on the query tool, you'll see a page that looks like this. And you'll notice that on the left-hand side, we have step 1, which is filter data. So you need to choose some data to filter on in order to use the query tool. And you can choose studies, forms, data elements, or defined queries. And defined queries would be a query that was saved by yourself or someone else that shared that query with you. So if you are filtering data and you're looking at the Studies tab, you'll notice that the input on the left-hand side here is forms, and the output on the right-hand side here is studies that use those forms. There's a little number here next to these forms, and what that means is that these are the number of studies that are using that form. Similarly, if instead I chose to filter on forms, my input is studies and my output is the forms. And then the number next to these studies is the number of forms in that study. You could similarly search on data elements. You would click this select data elements here. And then you could also do defined queries. If someone had saved one or shared it with you, you could click that to automatically upload, to automatically view a query that had already been done. So I'm going to click on Studies. And the forms I want to use, I'm going to just click a bunch of them here. And you'll notice that my Studies is on the right side is populating. And I want to use all of these forms. And what I did is I just selected 6 forms and 6 studies that I wanted to use, and I put those into my data cart. After you add some data to your cart, what you can do is you can click on step 2, which is Refine Data, and that tab appears here next to step 1. And this is where the join on the forms works. The first thing you'd want to do is pick out the form that you want to be your primary form. And your secondary. And there is the option to have 3 forms. Now when I click the join, you can join the forms. If there isn't a GUID in the form, then it'll be really difficult to match on the forms. Similarly, if you click on a form structure, for example, NM test, you will see any data that was in that study if you have access to it. And you'll see here these are the data elements that make up that study. So we have age, GUID, and test BMI. Now, if you wanted to narrow down your data set here, if you had hundreds and thousands of rows, we only have 11 here. There's a couple ways you can filter on some of these data elements. One thing you could do is click on the data element that you want to filter on and click Apply Filter. You could then say, I only want to look at ages 40 to 60. And that would be one filter I could apply. I could add another, I could also do a filter by clicking Select Criteria and expanding the groups that I wanted to filter on and then clicking Filter. For the test BMI, I could say I only want to look at BMIs of 22 to 50. And then if I was done filtering, I could click Apply Filters. And we can see that I went from 11 rows of data to 3 rows of data. Now there are a couple options here for downloading your results. And the way you can do that is you can have download options here. You can download to your queue. You can send this data to a meta-study. Or you can save this as a new query and then it would show up in the defined queries step under filter data. I'm going to go ahead and download to my queue, enter a name, and save the CSV. I would then need to go check the download queue and download the data that I narrowed down to in the query tool. Another option is if I wanted to download data that had permissible values with the permissible value or the output code and the permissible value or only the output code, I could make that selection here. You can also clear your data cart if none of this is what you're looking for. And you'll be brought back to step 1 to filter data. That's it for the query tool.